Hi, this is the Be Well with Michelle Greenwell podcast. Our heartwarming conversation is designed to lift you on your wellness journey. Grab your cup of tea and enjoy the podcast. Can you imagine dance and programming that moves people away from the bar? Or that technique that comes from smart activating exercises rather than hours of muscle memory training? And perhaps you've been injured in your training career and you just want to find the love and the fun of dance once again. In this podcast, we're going to change the way that you're going to be thinking about movement, traditional training methods that we have knowledge of, the research, and the expertise to make changes, and the power of Mariah-Jane Thies to lead the way. So welcome, Mariah, Miss Radiant Dance Teacher Extraordinaire. So glad to have you here.
My great honor to be here. Thank you, Michelle.
I'm excited about chatting once again because our last conversation was in season 2, episode 2, which is July of 2022. So coming out of the pandemic, and man, that was a tough haul for dancers and dance educators. So now you have been the recipient of the Innovation in Dance Award for 2024 from the Royal Academy of Dance, or the RAD. So congratulations on that achievement.
Thank you very much. It was quite a thrill. I did the good ugly cry and screaming for the first few minutes. It was, I was very thrilled and honored.
Well, and you've been working for a long time really hard at building these new programs and showing people there's a better way to do things. So to be able to take that innovation title and show people, it's not just one tiny little change, it's big changes.
I've been working tirelessly for, I'm going to say, about 25 years. And I always felt like the weird pioneer. And I was wearing that hat for a long time. Like, oh yeah, I just do things differently, or I had when I had my own dance studio, I had like a sticker, on the car for advertising, right? And it was Prism Dance Center, transforming the mind and body. I didn't have the guts to put spirit there yet, but back then, like, I was out there, I was weird. So this feels like almost like I get to switch out the weird crown to the owning that this is innovation, and that's a good thing, rather than I'm just bucking the trends that I was always a part of. I just didn't want it. I didn't believe in how traditional dance training was. So to get the recognition from the RAD for that is not just a pat on the back. It's like permission to run with it even more and really, say it for the people in the back of the room, like really just go for it now.
Exactly. All right, before we dive deeper into discussions, I always like to set this up so the people that are listening are going to have a healing session while we're talking. We're going to open up some new ideas for them, transform the way they might be thinking about their own stuff. And as we do that, I always like to check in with what kind of tea you've brought today.
I have in this pretty little Van Gogh mug of my sister's. I'm at my sister's right now. Just some peppermint tea. I'm always been a fan of peppermint. It seems like a great thing to wake up in the morning with. And then, of course, peppermint toothpaste. I don't know. So it's always like the other, whether it's going to bed or getting up, I love peppermint. And actually, as a side note, peppermint, I don't know about the peppermint tea, but I know sniffing peppermint oil, I learned this from Claire Hawking down in Australia, helps to myelinate the vestibular nerve. And that vestibular development has always been a foundational piece that I'm always working to develop. I needed that from day one. So here's to peppermint and being peppy and waking up and developing further.
Okay, we're going to dive deeper into what you just said in a minute. That's awesome. Okay. I did want to comment, though, that you have that Van Gogh mug, because that Van Gogh show that went around where you could stand inside the artwork.
I went to that. I went to it twice. I went to it once in Paris in 2019, and then in 2023, I think, early 2023, it was out in Vancouver. And I I can only, yeah, it was, I think saying transformative might be too big a thing, but it was transporting, that's for sure. And it was just a thing of beauty to be part of. And
Mm-hmm.
did you get to go?
I did. And
yeah, okay.
it was my birthday. And so I invited some of my friends. I said, I want to take all of you to Van Gogh. And for me to be able to stand inside the color when, like you, I've been doing all these techniques that people kind of shake their head and go, oh, that's just weird. And there you're standing in his artwork and you could feel the energy of each piece or the words that he wrote. Or for me, I've studied handwriting analysis. So looking at his signature, how his signature changed at different times. Oh my gosh, it was so powerful. But it was also confirming the work that I do with color and with art, intuitive art and infused art. And so as you held up the mug, I brought home a painting on like a flag or something, but I could stand in it. And when you stand inside that painting, you can feel how the muscles change, how the body opens. It's just incredible.
That's amazing. And I just realized that actually the earrings I'm wearing, I got at the Van Gogh exhibit as well. I don't know how you'll be able to see them. They're little snippets of a painting, right? Awesome. Yeah, it really blew me away. It was, and for me too, that I thought their choices of music, like I was just enveloped in it and was there for a great deal of time. And I took my best friend with me here in Vancouver and her, I think she was 13 years old, her 13-year-old daughter, who at first was like grumbling about, coming to do this. And I'm like, you really just want to have another night sitting at home scrolling on your phone, or do you want to come to this? And it didn't take long for her to go, okay, you were right. This is amazing.
This is really different and cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cheers to Van Gogh and his colors and energy and
Cheers to that. All right. I'm going to cheers and then I'll tell you what I'm drinking here. So that leads so beautifully to Van Gogh artwork. The tea blend that I have today is Golden SereniTEA from the Harmony blends. And I'm just going to hold it up, see if I can catch this in the light correctly. But there's a little symbol up in the top corner where it's been connected to the different chakras. So it's color coded to bring us to grounding. And so as we talked about Van Gogh and what you feel like being in the color, these teas from the Harmony Blend series are all devised for us to be connecting by color, because each blend has a different color. You can hold the color. So it's nice to have a clear mug, but also I often put it in a wine glass because then I can put my hands underneath it when it's cooled, and it just feels good to hold the color. So that same idea. So I wanted to share Golden SereniTEA is it's a black tea. Black teas have high antioxidants, so that's really great for helping to rejuvenate the cells. And it's also, as you were talking about vestibular system, black tea actually is a calming piece that you can do for the nervous system. So the vagus nerve actually gets the opportunity to reset itself when you're drinking black tea. And most people think it's caffeine, and caffeine is giving you that little bump or push, but it's this calming effect that happens. And at the same moment, the mind opens. And that's the first in the morning, what people are looking for is to get rid of that nighttime fog, but it's actually how this black tea works. And so I really love thinking about that and knowing that I can nurture the nervous system while opening my mind.
That's a beautiful combination, and I can see why people use that to start their morning all the time.
So now the other thing is, a lot of people will say to me, they enjoy, just like you said with peppermint, ginger and lemon. And ginger and lemon is in this recipe, and the lemon and the ginger work together as an ally, which lots of times people don't realize. They just think, oh, I'm just going to throw these herbs into the pot while I'm cooking, or I'm just going to blend these two herbs together and see what happens, but they actually create a relationship with each other. And this one is for about manifesting desire. So lemon and ginger for desire, which is really cool.
I need that.
And also valuable for helping to fulfill dreams. So you and I were talking ahead of us recording the podcast, and we actually were setting what the intentions are moving forward before we even started. So this is a part that's going to help bring that in and cultivate it. So anybody listening, you have something that you're looking forward to doing or accomplishing, now's the time to just think about it so you can buddy in with us here.
Yeah.
All right. Combined with the lemon and the ginger is turmeric to bring the power and energy of dream building and prosperity together. They do work as anti-inflammatories. They are helping to detox the systems, but in the end, they're really about dream building and prosperity. So more abundance within us in the way that our bodies will function, but also in the things that we're doing. Okay. So having said that, here's the intention that's on the package so we can engage with it. Soften the desire to push through. With confidence and an authentic self, love welcomes peace within. And we all know we work way too hard sometimes to try to get that to get that outcome. All right, cheers.
Funny, my sort of shift this year, particularly since winning the award you mentioned, has been to go from striving to thriving. Mm-hmm. And not just like so hard all the time because it's exhausting. It doesn't work. It's not the right energy. We're here just to thrive. And can I relax into my birthright of thriving? And if I ever thought I needed to be in survival, well, been there, done that. If I thought I needed to spend decades striving, been there, done that. Now it's just time to thrive. I don't think you need the decades of all that, but if there's this part going, oh, I needed it, it's done. Yeah. Just to switch into, stop the push, just allow.
Yes. Yeah. And I've also been embracing that every time you engage with someone with the potential for healing, the enzymes immediately activate. And so I have changed how I approach all my activities in the day. Instead of leaving it for that one block where I go, I'm going to do a balance now and I'm going to kind of set everything up. I don't do that anymore. Now it's like every engagement is the same because we want the best for each other. That's why we're interacting. And then to set it up that, yes, we're ready for us to be healed by the interaction, no matter what our conversation is going to be about. It's wonderful.
I love that. Just living with an open heart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, we need one more piece. And this is the coasters that go with the Harmony Blend teas. So there's 6 teas in the series, but then there's these 11 coasters. And this is the one, this helps me to determine when I have a conversation with people, where are we in the transformation that's going to happen? And for today's conversation, we are at, it's the FA connector. It means from the heart to the brow. So how do we get from our heart's desire into what we know and what we can comprehend and what we can move forward with new ideas? And there's 3 affirmations, but I'm just going to share the second one. Your acceptance of love and connection is without strings or apprehensions. That's a lovely way to think about. I've got this idea. There's nothing, just like you said, there's nothing tying me back. I did all that stuff already. Now all I need to do is focus on the outcome and then I can just go there. Yeah.
Perfect for where I'm at and what we talked about already.
And then for people, I hold up a coaster and they go, oh, it's a coaster. It's a nice little whatever. And I'm going to put my cup on it, whatever. But as we just talked about Van Gogh and the opportunities stand within the color, this has all been infused with special energy. And so when you're putting your teacup on it or your glass of water even, it's immediately being fused with the idea of heart center to brow, bringing you out of your desires and into fruition of ideas. And who does not want to put their mug on top of that and take all the work out? The striving to thriving. I like that. Yeah.
Yes. Striving to thriving.
Yeah. Okay. So we've set the stage. Now, can we go back to what you said about your learning in Australia and the vestibular system? Because I think this is a really key point for people to understand.
Oh, for sure. So when I was in utero, so my mom and dad, they were living on what's now called Haida Gwaii, but was then the Queen Charlotte Islands. And so for all of my mom's appointments, my dad was a pilot, which is a small plane pilot over there, which is why they were living there. So I was in a plane, if you want to say I was in a plane in utero. I'm born premature and then in a plane again. So when I was digging into all the reflex work, particularly with this lady, Claire Hawking, my teacher, mentor, friend down in Australia, it became clear that almost all of my challenges kept trickling down to vestibular system development, always back down to, and then understanding that the vestibular nerve is the first nerve that starts to myelinize in utero between 18 to 22 weeks. Like it's the foundation. If I don't know where I am in space, nothing else can process, really. And so I've always had challenges with that. And then, I had that enlightened moment of going, well, this is why. Rather than feeling like a victim or broken, you just go, oh, my little life had those challenges, and therefore let's just keep addressing vestibular continuously, because it's certainly not going to hurt, and it might really, really help. And it has really helped. And one of the tips was simply to be sniffing real, like not a synthetic, but a real peppermint oil. And that would be apparently, I don't know how they figured this out, but that it helps to myelinate the vestibular nerve. And so I used to be horribly motion sick, whether it's plane, train, automobile, it doesn't matter. I'm the one. And I'm not going to go spinning one way on, rides at the fair, but all forms of transportation and whatnot, I'm fine. But I did, as a dance teacher, you're always back and forth to your music. So I had my little vial of peppermint oil, and every time I went back to the music, take a little sniff, take a little sniff. And so I just did that for months, and now just do it occasionally, but it absolutely worked. And again, it's not going to hurt. And I highly recommend everybody check out that their vestibular nerve is developed, because it could be that foundational piece that's, like the foundation of a skyscraper, whatever, right? Like that everything you're working above it is shaking and just going to keep collapsing anyway. So I think that's one key thing, is we often do a lot of work on ourselves, but are we working on the 10th floor, the second floor? Well, work on the foundation. And in the case of that type of basic development of brain to body and organization, the vestibular nerve is where it's at. So, and most people like the smell of peppermint. I mean, gosh, we're coming up to Christmas when we're filming this, right? Who doesn't like a good candy cane? Maybe it's not about eating the sugar, but about, enjoy your peppermint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, I love it. And I often carry a thing of peppermint with me, or I did a lot for previous travel until I realized I probably don't need to be on that plane sniffing away. I'm okay now.
And isn't that something, because people would think that they have to continuously do it, but then to realize that no, you can reset it, it can figure out what it needs to do, and it's done.
Well, that's just it. A lot of the healing work, I feel, because some of it does take time and commitment, consistency for a chunk of time. People sometimes just go, oh, I'll just accept the crap that's going on in my life, because I really don't want to set up another thing I have to do forever. And it's like, okay, brush your teeth every day, please. But if you're doing the right healing modalities, you can truly resolve and complete so many things where you go, yes, I was obsessed with sniffing peppermint oil for 2 years, and now I'm done. I did the work. Mm-hmm. And in the case of something like that, it's also easy. It doesn't hurt you. It's not hard. It's not a big toiling event to just go. Yeah. So foundation, work on the foundation, and realize that if you actually are doing the right work in the right order, you get to complete it and be done. Because we were designed to actually have all those stages go through completion. And so to me, a lot of the work is just going back and filling in the gaps or cleaning things up that happened that disrupted that. But it doesn't mean it's a lifelong thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So don't be afraid of diving in. You're not in there forever.
Yeah, exactly. And then sometimes people say, but how long will it stick for? And it's to, there's layers. So you might have worked on one layer, but then that's done and finished, but another layer comes up in the similar topic, but it comes up in a completely different way. And then you can change and completely reorganize. Now that you have that other piece, you can reorganize in a different way.
Right. It's like a spiral going up, so you look like you're revisiting, but you're at a much higher level. So it's nice to acknowledge that, of course. And I think also we have a culture that looks at so many areas where we're always coping. And therefore there's that feeling that it's going to be, it's not about sticking. It's just about a coping mechanism of something that's an ongoing thing. So yeah, I think that's a great point to go.
Mm-hmm.
It changes. It's done. You're moved on.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you don't have another layer occasionally, quite often, but even that one's going to be done and so on, right? Yeah. And that's not the same as a coping mechanism. Right. So I believe in preventing stress instead of managing stress, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well said. Okay, you're going to have key phrases that are happening. As people are listening, please be writing down these little pieces. Yeah.
Things to put on a t-shirt.
And one of the things with the tea is I wasn't putting it in the Tai Chi class because I felt like it was a extra thing to do. It was too much to add on with all the other stuff I haul in for every class. But I added the tea back in because it was a way of building community. But also when you smell that tea first, immediately the whole nervous system has this chance to calm. And just like you've described, because the smell kicks in and it gets into the brain quicker than anything else. And so we added that in, and everybody kind of softens in the class. And then conversation happens and you get connected to each other and you care about what happened to the person all week long and those kinds of pieces. And then you start doing Tai Chi, but you really feel like you're all a unit rather than you all came in with your baggage of whatever from the week. And then you set yourself down and your individuals kind of eggs in a carton. And then it's like all of a sudden you start to meld, and it happens just so much quicker.
You're inspiring me to add that to the start of my classes, to say, to everybody gather around and, we pass this essential oil around perhaps, or something like that together. And actually just tomorrow I'm speaking at the Healthy Dance for Canada conference, and my presentation's on building community in the studio. And so now I'm slotting in, that the start of the community moment would be the gathering I always gather in a circle, but no, let's gather in a small circle, hand this around. And as you just said, if picking the right sense could absolutely let go of what was before, be right in the moment and open-hearted, able to connect and be in that community to start the learning process. So there you go. You just added another thing to my presentation tomorrow and ongoing.
Awesome.
Point. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. And then, that the class is always excited to know what blend it is. And I'm not always talking about the intentions or the herbs or, making a big deal out of it. It's just, this is the blend today. Here's where it comes from. I'll make some little comment. And they always go, oh, yeah, this is really good. And then just that and that connection to the herbs. And so powerful. Awesome. Well, that's great. Okay, all of that off of our vestibular piece of the conversation. So let's move over to let's move into movement. And one of the things that I've so enjoyed about being able to connect with you is my same passion for using brain gym techniques, touch for health techniques for the dancer, and helping before they get to injuries. So do you want to share with the audience a little bit about what you've witnessed as a result of using these techniques and thinking about how they can be embedded within dance programming?
Sure. Okay. So I work with three populations. The students, anytime I get to guest teach or sub-teach, um, fully sort of registered, doing their thing, experienced teachers, and then also teachers who are on the RAD program to become certified teachers. And it's interesting, obviously each group is quite unique and different. I just recently did a nice little batch of sub-teaching for a colleague. So I had a chance to have like up to 6 classes with certain levels. So it was really fun to really layer things in. And of course, I started class differently. I did different things, referred to as like, often was told that it was like magic. And I'm like, well, no, it's not magic. I'm not magic. I'm just sharing with you what I know about how the body works. And now that you're tapped into how the body works, you get to feel how amazingly brilliant your body is. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of the number one thing is students, giving them that idea, and then making sure that those young teachers I'm influencing understand that, you're not here to drill things and just constantly rehearse things. You are here to inspire and draw out and enliven and allow and all that. And then working with, and they embrace that. They're still at the beginning of their journey and they can see that it's going to be an easier way to be. And then those experienced teachers, sharing with them all these other ideas about looking at brain integration, for example, or what things you do to start with a community so that the brain and the heart are open, ready to learn. Because dance can be very isolating, particularly something like ballet. Yeah, maybe I'm in a class with 10 other people, but traditionally, not my way, but traditionally you walk in, you don't say a word, like probably ever in a whole class, unless, can I go to the bathroom? Like traditionally you're seen but not heard, right? That ethos mm-hmm. is carried through often in ballet. And then you go to the bar and you just work on your own thing and you dance side by side with somebody. Like there's no dancing with people and there's no sense of community. And I'm like, so trying to change the traditions that the more experienced teachers have had and embraced and been working with, and would probably say they believe they work and also say they have challenges. And can you help me with this and this? And they don't always realize that the traditions they're keeping to is actually what's causing most of their challenges. Right? So I have 3 distinct things. I have eager students where I just say, look, let's get weird together today, shall we? I'm here, I'm different. Why have a normal class? And they're all like, oh, okay. And then I have the student teachers who are like, really? I can do it that way instead of the way I've been taught. And then I have teachers who are absolutely on the full spectrum of engaged and excited, ready to change, and resistant. Most of the times that I've been teaching teachers, it's been at a workshop or a conference, which means it's drawing the people that actually are far less resistant anyway, mm-hmm. right? Or they're not going to that, they haven't spent the money or the travel time or whatever to be at a conference if they're not open to new things. However, a big piece, funny, we were talking about foundations before, a big piece that I'm noticing is that most dance teachers want to add new tools. They're in an additive state instead of a switching it out and saying, actually, we need to switch from this to this. Mm-hmm. Meaning like they think they're here to learn and add that will create change rather than, no, the change is far more fundamental than that. Mm-hmm. So I've been working a lot on really my languaging even, and the order of presenting things so that it's accessible and that the change doesn't feel threatening. Mm-hmm. For example, I have a whole course of preparing students for a performance. I mean, how could I not, right? But that I've divided into 3 sections of what you're doing in studio that truly prepares a student to no longer fall apart due to the stress of being in a performance. Then what are you going to do and even not do in the dressing room areas? And then, of course, what happens in those last 3 to 5 minutes just before you go on stage? Because you could be have a polished dance that you've worked on the entire year and it's the end of year recital, and they go on stage and they freeze or they mess this up or they're, whatever. And it happens all the time. So the foundational pieces are the in studio for months and months and months before. But what I've realized is I created this whole course and nobody was really biting. I was getting tiny nibbles and I'm like, okay, fine. I just need to keep learning more marketing. But what turned out to be far better was when I realized that it's very destabilizing to tell people they have to change. Nobody wants to really hear that. And I think that's why a lot of the healing stuff people don't do, because there's certain types of healing that will require a change, and that can be threatening in itself. So they'll just keep the pain. Thank you very much. So how do you meet people where the changes are less threatening and they give such an immediate improvement that then after exploring that for a while, we're willing to go deeper and go further back. So what I wound up doing actually just recently is a backstage strategies to shine on stage, where I'm like, you know what? I know that the work in studio goes to dressing room, goes to backstage, but I'm actually starting at the top and working backwards so that people, they can put out the little fires here. I think not starting the fire here is more important, but no, I better get them here. Mm-hmm. So while I've been learning how to apply and teach this to the student teachers and teachers, what I've also really, really had to learn is the presentation of it, the presentation order of it, and using these skills that I know about learning even more, and in that different angle of, I don't know if that answered your original question, but like how I'm implementing all these things. Like I can answer how, which is I think what I just did. And then of course I can share some of the what's, but the how has been my biggest part of my journey in this last year and a half or so, because realizing that I think it's wonderful. The students love it. The student teachers love it. How do I get the teachers to embrace it? It's that whole thing, meet them where they're at. Right. And so if they're on the 10th floor, I got to meet them on the 10th floor, and maybe we peak at the 9th floor. But if I say, you can't tell somebody, like, forget everything you've been teaching for the last 25 years and start over back here. Right. They don't want to hear that. They'll tell you to go away. Yeah. And also the old, who do you think you are? Because for a lot of teachers teaching 25 years, they believe that they've been having good success with their students. And for me, that may be true. I may say, yes, you have. Yet, my guess is there's been a lot of students that got lost along the way, whose full potential was not realized, or who had mind, body, or spirit sort of trauma from those teaching methods. Particularly, again, I'm speaking of the ballet world. And I don't think I'm speaking in a way that most ballet dance teachers, ballet dancers wouldn't be okay with, which is traditional ballet training can be incredibly traumatic and damaging on self-image, body image, self-esteem, all of that. And for a time, that was actually the market I really wanted to work on, was like recovering ballet dancers who wanted to keep dancing. And I go, no, I want to go back further still and just like not let it happen to people. Rather than helping them heal, let's just not let it happen in the first place. Mm-hmm. That's sort of my journey of how I'm implementing this stuff. But again, did I answer your original question?
Well, you did. And the other piece that I think you said that's really key is when people don't know, that they like to know where they are. So that foundation. So we talked about being grounded already this morning. And when you say you could do it differently, and here's how, it becomes it's like so much has to be let go of. And we just don't want to let go. And so we just grip on tighter, and it makes it that much harder. So I think it's brilliant that you went to the other end and you went, okay, let's tease you with these little tiny things that could happen. But when you say, I'm ready to let go, show me how this works. and then they can just completely buy in and transform. Wow. Wow. Yeah.
It's exciting. It's exciting when I see people surrender. And that group of students that I mentioned, I just had the chance to work with, they were willing to really play with me. And there was some pretty amazing transformations, mostly with just ease and flow, embodiment, and in particular, enjoyment. Because a lot of the older, 15, 16-year-old dancers who are at high level ballet, but might have to be doing it so that they can do their contemporary and lyrical and jazz and all that. Like it's a requirement. And they're not loving and enjoying the feelings associated with taking ballet class. And that actually for two of the groups was our specific goal for my time with them was going, let's see if by the time we're done, maybe even by the time we're done the first class together, you can actually enjoy being in your body, doing the aesthetic of ballet. And we got there. And it was great fun. But I also know that that's me teaching the students. It's a much longer journey to teach the teachers how to teach the way I did with those students.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So whether a teacher's full on old school or just sort of in that gray area between, it's a very different perspective and a very different approach. Mm-hmm. And so I will be honest and say, like, I think I missed the mark with teaching teachers, maybe say 2 years ago, because I was so eager and excited about all these ideas and how they could be applied and like, let's not go this way, let's go this way. And just went, okay, hang on. Teacher, teach thyself, right? Like go, no, you can't destabilize the people you most want to help, right? So it's interesting, the more I do this, the fact that I have one idea, one mission, but it is definitely applied in 3 different ways, depending on who I'm mm-hmm. speaking to, working with. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that to me is a sign of a good teacher, is being that adaptable.
I'm remembering back to when I took a creative teaching workshop, and when they introduced, well, first of all, when you walked into their studio, and this is going back 30 years now. So there's lots of things that are in the studios now that weren't there before. So going in, and there's a glow ball, and there's black lights, and there's a whole wall full of props that are just for playing with. And I walked in, I was like, what? What is it? Traditional room, white, bar, nothing in the room, a couple pictures on the wall, that's it. And I left that because totally immersed for the week that I was there. And I left that, came back to my studio. I repainted 2,400 square feet. I repainted the entire studio, brought in all of the pieces, and I was ready for change because you were talking about that change piece. So when I got back and transformed everything, it changed the way I was teaching. It was changing the way my teachers were teaching, and they hadn't been there. So they were trying to buy these pieces in and figure out how it was going to work. So on the smaller scale that you described, but I did the full jump in and said, I'm going to be different. Let's see how this works. But the joy that came to those students, it was just incredible. And then the other piece that happened off of that, I was trying to paint a picture for people who might be resistant to any change and have been shown ways that they could change, and then they're still holding on. But the last part was we became collaborative teachers. And that just doesn't happen either, because you go in, you teach your class, you close the door when you go in, something happens in there, you might invite the parents to watch for a little bit, and that's it. But all of a sudden the doors were open, parents were coming and going, and some people would think that's chaos, but they were just so interested in what we were doing. And then we could change rooms with each other, and we would say, what do you think we should do next? And then let's take the 2 classes, put them together. And the learning was just, and as you were talking about those layered pieces, we could layer all those pieces for the older students to the younger students, but it was just such joy.
I love that. I did a course or a workshop for teachers a year ago called Return to Radiance, like to stop being so burned out. Right. And that was one of my big things, was to realize that the chaos of that collaboration, of the door being open, the parents scene, switching rooms, switching teachers for 10 minutes, like all the craziness, the chaos. Now it's so rejuvenating and refreshing, and you don't have to be the only one in charge of this. It's like, it is a collaborative process. And if you're always the one pouring in, for starters, you're not drawing out, but you're pouring in, and you're the only one that feels responsible for that, that is exhausting. But if you disperse it and kind of go, no, I'm the guide. Yes, I believe I am the guide. I'm looking out, where do we need to go next, and who are we going to bring in, and all that. Yeah. So for people, A, not to be afraid of change, and B, not to be afraid of the chaos, that there's beauty in the chaos. And I believe that generally change comes out of a period of chaos, even if that chaos is just 2 minutes of the brain going, what? I don't get what you just said. Hang on. We're trying, and then the brain figures it out. Boom, change. And so we need to be willing to redefine what a good dance class is. It's not just this quiet, disciplined teacher in charge. That is change being pushed and forced instead of nurtured and able to blossom. Yeah. So I obviously I believe strongly in that, the old school methods. Some people survive. Absolutely. Some people make it to professional careers, although I would argue that, I'd argue 2 points. One would be, most of the people we teach are not going to become professionals, not because they don't want to, not because they can't, but because that's not their dream. They just want to love dancing and love being in their body, love being with their friends, doing it together. But also, just because you made it as a professional dancer, how did you survive? What damage was there? Did you have a 10-year performing career and then have a whole bunch of mental, emotional, and physical rehabilitation to do for the next 15 years after that? Therefore, were the methods that got you there actually okay? I think it's going to be an ongoing discussion in the dance world, and I think it is finally being discussed more than ever, which is good news.
Exactly.
Looking at that. But that chaos, that idea that open door, flow, coming and going, color, props, different music. Like, it was about 2 weeks ago now, I guess. So just sort of mid-November, the senior girls, like the 15, 16-year-olds, wanted Christmas music for their little free enchaînement, their little jumping combination. So I'm like, all right, like, it's okay that it's not the traditional. And the truth is, the music that I could find was just that hair too slow for the combination. Whereas if I just used my old ballet CDs, I could have found anything in an instant that would have been perfect. But it was so wonderful. They loved dancing to Jingle Bells. It was so traditional Christmas, but it was a little bit slower. Guess what? That's amazing for your jumping skills to have to slow down. And they repeated it so many more times because, we're not finished the song yet. Or oh no, wait, stop again. Hang on, the phrase is off. It had that extra 4 beats because it wasn't perfect ballet music. Like, they danced more and with more effort, energy, and stamina than if I had stayed strict. So we had fun and got more work done at the same time because of that. So those are the other things I'm I'm doing in the dance world when I have the opportunity to interact, whether it's those teachers, student teachers, or teachers. Yeah, I think people are afraid of having fun because they think it's taken them off the road of the purpose and where they want to go. Like I know I'm preaching to the converted here, right? With you, Michelle, but that if I'm having fun, I mean, it's not like studies don't say that that's actually how we learn best. We learn through play and all the methods that are so great and so embraced for teaching the 3 to 6 year olds. I'm kind of going, how about the 13 to 16 year olds? the methods are actually kind of the same. We don't change from how we first did all of that learning. It's the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So be willing to have fun, trust that there's still a lot of learning, be willing to have chaos. And maybe that's the formula. Fun and embracing of chaos is when the change happens, but it wasn't, you were changing because you were wrong. It just naturally blossomed into change. So
yeah,
making that, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just so much on the other side. It's just so beautiful. You spurred me to one other thought that I had, because as people are thinking about, well, what are these activities that you're doing that are so different? And I just want to paint a little picture, and then you can respond to it with some of your experience. When we do activities to bring people together, so it could be rubbing a point on the foot, which I would be doing my gait rubs, but we also have a water point that is halfway between the belly button and the center of the rib, and we can rub that point. And I just wanted to share that it's very simple things that just bring people together, and then all of a sudden they do the activity together, and they just are like linked. So we have this energetic connection that happens. So I was subbing for my son a couple weeks ago, and the girls had asked if I would give them a water break. So I said, sure. We had the water break. I said, I know this point that's really good because it helps to get the water to the right places, so then you can dance better. They said, okay. So they rubbed their belly, and then they turned around and we were doing tap dancing. And one little girl had been struggling to try to keep up to the rest of the girls, and the pattern wasn't flowing easily for her. She turned around and they set off down the floor in perfect unison, all of them. And they set the pace, and they were all equal. And I thought, now how easy was that? We had a water break. We turned around. It wasn't rote learning. It wasn't practicing for a long period of time. It was just, they just needed to connect and support each other. And now everybody belongs. And that's all it took. Anyway, for me, knowing these tools work, it was just like, wow, I can't believe the impact of what just happened. But I know you have lots of stories.
I've got tons that I do. One of the ones that's easiest, and I know I shared it in our previous interview, was the central meridian sweep, the pubic bone to chin. And I've taken it where, because I don't want my arm to come down that same line, I'm blowing kisses to my audience, So I do that. But the other one that I find I actually do with all ages, and I do it usually if, let's say, I'm going to get a series of classes with them, I usually do it in a first class. And it's sort of to break the body wall, to be in partners, or possibly even do it in like a little train in a little circle. And I call it doing waterfalls. And we just are behind a partner, or like I said, maybe a train, or if there's enough people that you can be in a whole circle. And we're just running fingers from the very top of the head all the way down, trying to get right through into the curve of the neck there, and fingers all the way down like a waterfall down the whole spine. And I mean, I know, and people doing this work would know, like that's then the governing meridian. So I do my central meridian, I do my governing meridian. So there's that just gets the actual natural posture even, because my energy flow, and then everything that happens good because of that. But because I'm doing hands-on stuff, my hands are being stimulated with the touch. The person feels so much more alive in their spine. They get nurturing touch from a partner that's super safe. And the reason I choose this one always is that the people who might be a bit like, touch, ooh, I'm not so sure, they are able to embrace easily. Well, guess what? There's a logic here, which is if you want a nice unbroken line, you cannot do that yourself. So be willing to receive from somebody else and give, and isn't that nice? And so there's a pretty much immediate buy-in where I just go, let's just really feel our spine all connected. We spend so much time looking in the mirror, we get very frontal, that's what we look down at, that's what we see. So let's just do something together to enliven our spines. We're going to need to do this in partners because you can't touch your whole back on one long line, and then I do it. And it's effective even if you just do, say, 3 or 4 swoops, which means You're not even having to touch more than 10 seconds if that's still a bit awkward for you. But it changes the energy in the room immediately and permanently to do that at the beginning. And then if I've ever done it with a class and I have the benefit of seeing them again, they always request it. Always. And so it's one of my it's just such an easy buy-in and so effective that, like, why not? Why not introduce it? Everybody feels it. And I've, even done this with 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds, and not one time have I ever seen it done anything but with absolute respect for the fact that they're doing this with their partner. It's absolutely adorable to see little 4-year-olds doing it on their partner. But I will warn you, you might tell them to go swoop, swoop, swoop. But if they're 15, boom, it's like you turned on their vocal cords and they're all going to talk and giggle and carry on. There's going to be chaos, right?
Yeah.
But it's exciting chaos. They just got stimulated. They just connected to each other. So the length of time it takes to do that, and I don't even worry about like the shutting them up after. Like, I don't believe in that. If they've been stimulated and they're having their moment together, and then for a minute or two later, they're still blah, blah, blah. They're actually talking on topic, by the way. I've always noticed. They're like, oh yeah, like they don't start talking about, school stuff in dance class. We just woke up their spine. They're going to share about that with their partners. And I tell them to do that if they, you know what? I tell them to always share with certain activities, but I don't think I've ever had a waterfalls time where people didn't get chatty. Mm-hmm. Which for some teachers, they'd find that the chaos and the threatening and, oh, I need to clamp that down. There's not learning. It's like, oh my gosh, when they just got stimulated enough to know that they're supposed to be quiet, but can't help themselves. They're so excited. Isn't that a good thing that they're so excited? Yes, of course it is.
Especially when you're looking at a teenager who spends a lot of time sitting on the base of that spine and shutting that whole system down, which does prevent them from being able to vocalize. So then we label them that sullen teenager in the corner, but they're just turned off. Absolutely. And then when you turn them on, and the fact that this freedom of being able to express themselves, which we kind of see as unnatural for a teenager, it isn't. It's just we found the mechanism to get to them and to be able to bring them out. Yeah, just beautiful. And
then, really, like again, ask teachers, again, me working in my backwards planning almost, of like, if we're here to ask them to be expressive, and you're shutting down their expression, you go, it's okay that they have verbal expression, and then you let that transmute into physical expression. And I work on that. And the teenagers, let's say the chatty ones, they get that. They understand that. Yeah. So it's interesting. So my principles in the Radiant Dance Teacher, or dancer, both integrated, embodied, expressive. I can't be expressive if I'm not embodied, and I can't be embodied if I'm not integrated. But because I would say integrated comes first, embodied comes next, expressive there. Again, when I first started out with these going, oh, I got my 3 keys, and all excited, I kept wanting to teach the integration piece first, and then the embodiment. And now I'm going, no, I got to do the work backwards. So working on the expression and that simple thing of waterfalls. I love that you mentioned that. Yeah. Sitting on the sacrum there is shutting that down. And that's, so yeah, anybody listening who wants their teenager to actually tell them how their day was.
Well, sit them at the bench in front of the counter in the kitchen and
do a few waterfalls. Yeah.
Wow.
And you'll get a flow. Actually, it's now that, love how perfect it is, the image of the waterfall and continuous flow, and that we're all water. Like you've turned on the flow.
Isn't that so much nicer than how was your day? And then you never talk to me. It would be really nice if you'd share something, and it's that you're at them and they're shut down. So it's not like they're going to respond any better because it's just not going to happen. So
I see so many, I'm on quite a few Facebook groups for dance teachers and all that, and so many complaints, venting, and yes, asking for advice about, the lacking in participation and motivation, all that of the teenage group. And most of the advice is punishment based.
yeah. Yeah.
That, if they're not doing this and not doing that, then it's like, well, exactly. They're not looking about whether they are, in a sense, turned on and able to participate. I remember I did some therapy work maybe 20 something years ago. And it was actually one of my first times being introduced to muscle testing, and using all the meridian points. It was really quite fantastic that I discovered this therapy stuff at that time. And we would always do a muscle check on ready, willing, and able, knowing that there's 3 different pieces there. Am I ready? Am I willing? Am I able? And I think a lot of times teachers, dance teachers, ballet dance teachers, old school, traditional determination, push, 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 push. There's absolutely no acknowledgement of ready, willing, and able. They're assuming that they're ready and able, but just not willing. And that I've got to push that. I've got to use my will to make them do it. And is it any wonder, therefore, that teachers get burned out?
Yeah.
Same thing I'm going to say for school teachers, but that's a whole nother discussion.
But it's true. Yeah. It's really true. And, to even do that check-in for yourself every day, am I ready, willing, and able for whatever you're facing for the day? And if the answer is no, then what is it you're going to be doing in your day that's going to change that? Because otherwise, it's going to be a head-butting kind of day, or it's going to be nothing worked the way you wanted it, or you just fall behind because you just can't seem to get it together. And it's an important way of really looking at how do you want things to function.
Yeah, it was a really big piece that I've kept and check in with all the time, and realize that it's not just me needing to check in. I need to see that my students are all 3 ready, willing, and able. Mm-hmm. Or you're going to be striving, or, be interesting to kind of look and go, if one of them's out, so to speak, maybe I'm in striving mode. If maybe 2 of them's out, am I in survival mode now? And then if 3 of them out, maybe I didn't even show up that day, right?
Right. You needed a mental health day.
Yeah. Versus all 3 of them in place, and I'm thriving and I'm loving dance in this case, or just loving my day because it flowed. Yeah. And these tools that are so, I used the word too, in our last interview, like suspiciously easy, doesn't make them less profound. Mm-hmm. 10 seconds of sweeping up, 15 seconds of receiving a waterfall, like boom, ready to go. Or always worth a check. Let's just say that. Always worth a check. It's like the sniffing the peppermint oil. It's never going to hurt you. And it might just be that little key that unlocked you for that day. Oh, always worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you and I, we could just keep going. There's so much. I don't get to talk a lot about dance these days, so it's lovely to be able to come back into that world. How can people find you and get connected to you?
Okay, so I now have a website, www.radiantdancer.com. And of course, there's contact form and whatnot through there. So that's probably the best way. I am on Facebook, Mariah-Jane Thies. If you are a dance teacher listening to this, you can search out the Radiant Dancer Facebook group. That's a private group, and you can request to join. You have to fill in your little questions, of course. Like I just want people there that are really interested in the pedagogy side of things, not costumes or even complaining about parents. I don't want that. This is just about elevating the teaching. You can even, I suppose, I've got a Radiant Dance Teacher YouTube channel, and if you put comments in the descriptions and I guess a comment with an email or whatever, we can exchange that way. But I guess the website's probably the best way right now. So radiantdancer.com, and I'd love to hear from you and more questions. Certainly dance teachers listening to this, but anybody who's more interested in just the teaching and reaching people in general is who I really want to be working with.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, but I know you and I will have another discussion. We'll keep diving. It's just so beautiful. I love your work. I love what you're doing. I wish you the very best for the conference you'll be presenting at, and I'm so glad that you're continuing to shine with that. And for people that are listening, maybe you're not involved in the dance world, but you know somebody that is, please pass Mariah-Jane's information forward so they can find her. And we can transform this, because dance should be everybody's vocabulary. And
and the cool thing is if dance is being done in a way like I'm a proponent of, your 15-year-old who takes a few dance classes a week and is not becoming a dancer, if these ways are being done though, and they're in that flow, they're going to be better humans. They're going to do better in school, have deeper friendships, feel they can have their dream and pursue them. Like it's these methods. It's not about creating dancers. It's my inroad to help people. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Beautiful. Really for everybody. Exactly.
Oh, sorry. Actually, that reminds me. You said how I can keep in touch. Please also, if you're not in the dance world and go, this isn't for me, I also have a public Facebook group called Living an Embodied Life. You're welcome to join that one. And actually in September and October, both of those months, I did 30-day challenges. One of them about, you would love this as a fellow foot fanatic, a football rolling challenge. Mm-hmm. And then the follow-up one was a 30-day one that I called Freedom from Challenge, because it's like freedom from all those annoyances that might have you tune out from your body. So if you just scroll back, obviously I suggest you go to day one, so you have to scroll back quite a bit, but go ahead and scroll back and you can follow along all those days and just layer in your positive, happy changes. So Living an Embodied Life, you're welcome to join all those people who are looking for that. Do the Facebook group.
Awesome. That is perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining me. And I wish you the best. And to the audience that's listening, you can go forward with a lot of really good ideas. And we hope that your day is going to run smooth and with ease today. Mariah-Jane is zipping up from pubic bone to the bottom of the chin for those people listening. Awesome. Take care, everyone. Thank you for listening to Be Well with Dr. Michelle Greenwell. There are a couple of resources I want to just point out. When you go to the website greenwellcenter.com, you'll have a pop-up window. That pop-up gives you the top 8 easy stress releasers that you can use every day. That's something you can put beside your computer, the bathroom mirror, beside the bedside table. A great resource. Also, my YouTube channel. It is full of playlists with all kinds of different ways that you can activate energy and bring vitality into your day. You can find that when you go to YouTube at Michelle Greenwell. And last, if you're a Linktree person, Linktree, linktr.ee/Greenwell Center. That has all my resources in one spot. Those are for intricate little things that you can't get everywhere. And it's a wonderful way for me to be able to share all the different aspects of the kind of work I do. So thank you for listening. Be sure to drink that tea. And if you want to have the tea blend that was shared in the podcast today, then be sure to check out capebretontea.ca. Have a wonderful day.